Okay, so nicely pushing along with this one. We've come in, as we said before, and we've taken care of all the edges on this. You can see we've got a little bit more plumbing work going down there. We're adding all the levers and the items down in there just like that. It's coming together very, very nicely. Be sorted soon. So actually what we've done over here, as you can see, these are all these sort of items being added down into there, which you can put in singly, or you can paint them first, then put them in, totally up to you, okay? And then over on here is what we've been working on this guy. So pretty straightforward. We've got this box section going down in here, which makes up the actual wheel well set, which we've already put it in. It is extremely straightforward because they really can't go any other way but this way. So those all go in, and this guy I've actually put in, but I haven't painted it yet. We'll pick it out by hand once it's in. It'll be quite easy to get to. We can get to it in there just up like that once it is in. Not forgetting to undo the two holes, okay? So it is kit specific on this one. If you're going to have the two drop tanks on the actual nose system of that one, so you're going to need to fit those in there. If you're not, then obviously you won't worry about opening up the holes. These here, which are the actual wing tabs which fit in, are great, but it doesn't go in. So what you want to do is snip off one side and then hook them in. And actually it's not too bad. It holds its own weight. It's quite a nice fit. And from our point of view, because we're going to be coming in with a nice chunk of photo etch, it's going to cover this completely. We're not worried about it either, okay? So from that point of view, we don't mind about the center seam. It will be hidden away, and that fits in. Then you drop in, simple fit, only goes one way again. The actual wheel well system goes in there, and then that fits in pretty much securely with no real fit issues anywhere at all. Again, just making sure you get rid of any little flashy bits, any little things that could be in the way or interfering with things, and you'll be good to go. So we let that dry, and next we're just coming along and popping on the top wing. So again, always with Revell kits, just have a little look, see what's going on under here, and just make sure you've got things like these ejector pins. They're all nice and flush, they're not going to interfere with anything, and always test fit. Now, one test fit that throws up a little bit of a concern is you pop this little guy on down in here, and good old-fashioned pegs come to the rescue. You might notice you've actually got a locating pin. Let's switch cameras here. We've got a locating pin just here, all right, and then we've got another one obviously in here. So you'd think those would go together, but unfortunately I don't know how well you can see it, but they don't even touch, all right? So it's a case of don't worry about that one so much. So easiest way is to make sure the back is in first. So make sure that that one's lined up and you'll have no problems. And again, pegs just to hold it all in place on this guy, all right, and then again making sure that this one is good. These are all going to be actually covered up with a little bit of photo etch, but it doesn't hurt right now. Then once that one is in at the front, we can come in, pop a peg in there just to hold it, and then coming along, whichever glue you want a weld action glue, you can simply brush this along here, okay, just taking your time. All right, and you'll be absolutely fine, okay? So again, plenty of glue here, because what we're actually going to do is we're going to come back and we're going to sand this, because we have got a very nice piece of photo etch to fit in here. Okay, so literally all the way across, and again, just down these edges. And once you've got a few in like that, what you can actually do is just add a few more pegs just to make sure it all pulls in nice and tight. And then down in here, you might notice we've got that little sandwich area just like there. So what we want to do, just come in with our glue, and we want to pop a little bit of glue just on those, just to pull that in so it holds together. And again, you might need another peg in there just to hold that in there, so it's all nice and closed in just like that. And then exactly the same on the other side. So what I'm going to do is just lift this off for the moment, and then we can get in there with the glue just like that, and then pop it in. And then what we're going to do is remove and replace right the way through. Okay, again, plenty of glue just down in that one especially, because it can be a little bit prone to pulling apart, but the rest of it, as you can see, is more than straightforward. Top end ones till we come to the actual end. Now the little flaps and slats and all those little gizmos can all be put in afterwards. Okay, so that's all good, just like that. Then you end up with the wing system on there, and it is pretty nice. Our one's drying off here. So what we're going to do, let the other half dry on there, and then we can actually start getting the first of the photo etch in. At the same time, just the speed time as things were drying, what I've done is I've put all the tail planes together, so these all need to be cleaned up now. So there's a couple of ways. You can come in with something like a deburring tool like this, and just give them a little bit of a rundown, gives you a very nice finish just like that, or obviously a softer sanding sponge just in there, just to take off the edge but keep the roundness to it. And again, we've done things like the actual these are the ailerons, okay, on the outside, but you might notice we've actually got a bar. It's a little bit of the plastic. It's not exactly the brilliant welding or anything else like that job. So again, taking a sanding stick, a flat one, and we can then just sand those all in, and then it takes care of all the optional little extras for like the edges and everything else like that seems to be on here. Okay, so again, just off, but say you need plenty of glue just to make sure these don't peel apart on you, and then obviously making sure you've got nice smooth ends on the end so you don't have a big seam line in there. So if you are showing it somewhat in a moved position, you know you'll be absolutely fine with it. And then again, just going to take off a little bit of an edge just like that. Okay, rudder system, again, very straightforward, apart from you have got this little trim tab that's going to sit in here, and again you can see a little bit of glue oozing out of here. So again, you can just come in with a sanding sponge or a sanding stick when you're ready, and just take care of those and blend those all in. You need a little bit of work just to take care of it. Again, soft plastic, very, very thin edge, and then your trim tabs and things like that down in here, so your sprue gates, you can sand off and then mould in. But then again, always come back in just with a little sponge, just so you don't get a nice flat spot, and it keeps everything nicely rounded off, just like that. Okay. Okay, so that's those done. At the same time, exactly, we've got the actual flaps. These are two-part go together again. Some of them are a little bit nasty, so you just want to take care, make sure they're nice and flat and everything else in. You can get those in, and then clean up these guys. Now these are the leading edge slats, which we've still got to do. And again, just keep it quite flat. Okay, you don't want to be sort of sanding with like a skinny stick here, because what happens is you can cause a dip in it. So you want a nice flat firm sanding stick so you don't make a dip. Okay, so it's all just the same, and that one's done there now. You can see there's a little bit of detail under here, but nothing you would really go wild about. But as said, in a moment we've got this little guy, and as you can see we've got some very nice photo etch in here that we're actually going to go and we're going to put in. So this is the one that's going to go in the underside of the engines. These are going to go in those leading edge slats. It's going to be in the gap behind, and then these little guys down here are going to be in the flaps. And again, we've got little bits down there as well that need to be fitted in, so that's going to come up next. But what we want to do, let that wing set dry, sand, make sure it's all fine, it's all together and everything else like that. Once it is, then we're going to get the photo etch onto that one, and then we can get it mated up to the main fuselage. Okay, so with the wing set all done, we're looking at the photo etch, and to be honest, we've popped out a few little bits, as you can see down in here, and we're trying to put it together, and yeah, you've guessed it, doesn't exactly fit how we would want it. Some of the things aren't exactly lining up, some of the parts are a little bit wider, so it looks like the Revell version is a little bit different to the Trumpy one. Now, this part here isn't exactly a a game changer, because it's going to be hidden by the engines in there. So it depends if you're going to have the engines open, removed, or what you're going to do with them. Now, from our point of view, we was always going to have them installed, but it would have been nice to actually just fit this part in here like this. But when you take a little bit of a closer look, you might just sort of notice how you've got the edges here, and by the time these tabs at the rear fold in, you are going to be in there something like that. And as you can see, the shape at the front isn't exactly there, and there's a huge disparity between the two. Okay, so there's a big overhang, so this is going to have to be trimmed into size. I don't think it's something that can't be done, it's just going to take a little bit of work in there. Now at the same time, we've got the curved areas going in at the back, so we've got the flat ones. We'll show you how to do these now, and then we've got the inside ones. Now, making convexed curves on sort of photo etch like these can be a little bit of a problem, okay, but actually if you get in there and just use what you've got around it, lying around, you can actually do it. You don't need these expensive rolling machines and everything else like that. So a drill bit set, everybody's usually got one, okay, perhaps a little bit bigger than you might have got for the hobby. So pop down to the actual, you know, the shed or in your garage and get out your masonry built bits, whatever it is, and we've got something down in here. So down in here we've got an 8.5mm drill bit, and I think we've got down in here, I don't know what size this is 4.5, and we've got a 4. Okay, millimeter drill bit. Now the whole point to these is we can physically bend these around things. So by using the curve, so obviously it's going to be curved on the inside, what we've done, we've got the part, we put it down on top, and all we do is push it. And then we're just pushing our fingertips and rolling it on the surface, and then you can roll it back on itself, okay, on a hard cutting mat, okay, and there you go, we have a little bit of a curve going on there. Then what you want to do is you bring it over and you simply test fit. Now the test fitting, it can happen, it makes it do it in one, or it might take 100 times to get it correct. Okay, so what you're trying to do is, and lo and behold, because I know I've already done the other side obviously, but that fits quite well. So that is, as we said before, just double check the sizes for you, this is a 5.5, is that correct, 5.5 HS, yeah, 6.5 millimeter drill bit, and that is very nice. It gives us the exact curve we want. Okay, now the other one, and this one, as you can see, is still totally flat. Okay, it's going to be a little bit less. All right, so we're just going to come in here, so face down, because obviously we want it to do it downwards. So the thing is, because it's quite heavy, if you was just to come in like this, and you can probably give a little bit of a roll just to get it to start. Okay, and then what we're going to do is push it down. Now the thing is, normally I would use a saying about a cutting mat or a soft piece of sponge to do this on, or something else. The trouble with this is, in all honesty, is that it's too strong a part. Okay, so this here, we're just going to bend this right the way down, and what you want to do is begin just physically working it so you don't end up with a pinch at the top. So I'm just going to roll my finger down, so I'm holding it at one end, and then we're just going to rolling my finger right the way around it all, trying to get it to conform. Now if you do get little bits that stick up and that's not going to be too bad, we can take care of that, but generally, as you can see, we had that nice crease. Now we've got a roll. Okay, so that is in there literally just like that. So what we're going to do, we'll take it over to the section, and we're just going to place this on and see exactly what we've got. It might help. Okay, a little bit more, just needs a bit more. So what we've got is a slightly smaller bit now, and it's more at this end. So we're using the slightly smaller drill bit, and we're just poking it in. Now it's better just to have a slightly bigger bit, because then you can push in than smaller. Smaller means you've got to sort of crush it in and everything else. Okay, so from this point of view, we should be something like that. Now it's a little bit too much now at one end, so what we're going to do, just taking our other one, this is our wider bit, and we're just going to push very lightly along the entire thing, just to open this up, to splay this out just a little bit. Now obviously you could put it down on the cutting mat, but you might lose the curve, and as you can see there now, we've actually got a very nice curve on this. And again, this is what it takes, it's just a little bit of playing with it and just a little bit of feeling around to see how it is. It needs to just a little bit more. Okay, so we're just going to pop it down on here. Okay, just to splay this out just a little bit more. And again, it is this thing about just getting it somewhat to the right fit. It's pretty much there. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to lightly take the part and just lightly rubbing over the top, just to splay this just a little bit out, because we've overdone it. Okay, and what you want to do with all bending photo etch like this is have it so it's like there, a perfect fit. So that's an absolute beautiful drop-in fit. And then, to be honest, we've just got our normal sort of rocket CA glue just down on here. So we just come along with this, I'm going to put a dollop. Okay, and another dollop. To be honest, you could do with a little bit of a better tool than I've got here, but you get the idea. making sure plenty of it. Okay, making sure it's down both ends. Remember, we can clean up afterwards if we need to with a little bit of, you know, debonder, super glue debonder, and then we're just going to place this in. Okay, then once that's in, just coming along with a metal area, so this doesn't super glue to your fingers, because obviously we don't want it to super glue to our fingers, we want it to go down in here. So it is that thing now of getting it in there. If you use a metal object, it should go in a bit easier. And again, these aren't exactly a perfect fit, so what we're using the metal, and we're just going to actually now push this in down in there, and as you can see, we are good on there. We've got a little bit of a gap just on this edge, so again we're just going to use the metal. Okay, so that's it, that's on that edge running there. There's a fraction little bit there, just a little roll. Okay, so there we go, and that is that one in there, just like that. I need just another little nudge just in there, so that's in, perfect. Okay, now this one just down in here, so again it's exactly the same formula, pop it in. Now this one is a tiny little bit smaller, so I'm going to focus more of its attention at the top than I am elsewhere. So again, just pushing it in, and that one goes in even easier. Okay, so there we go, that's those in very nicely, just like that. Now remember, if you have got a small edge, and we have got a small lip there, when that dries, come in with a medium sanding stick and sand that flush. That's all it takes, no problems at all. Okay, so then when we're on to the top half on these, it is a simple job of repeating what we've got, but in this way we can do it in reverse, and we can use, because it's a little less of a curve, dropping drill bits, okay, than what we had before. Okay, so we've just got down in here, we'll do it in this section, so we just put the photo etch. This is a mouse mat, okay, and then obviously turning inside out, push down and roll. Okay, and this is how we do it, and we've got a nice gentle curve, and again it's going to be a lot of test fitting until you've got the correct angle, but the great thing is once it's there you can push it down with your finger to sort of get the correct curve with it, and then that will fit in there just like that. Okay, so again we'll super glue and we'll work our way along, and we'll do the other sections. Just make sure you've cleaned up this lower edge of this first, and then the leading edge slats will hang out the front, and do it that way. So again, no need to go out and buy expensive cutting tools for photo etch, or going in and buying expensive rollers and benders. You can use what you've got, and actually a drill bit set works really, really well. So what I'm going to do is get those all bent, get them cut out, get them fitted on there, okay, and then what actually we can do is start putting in the flaps and everything, fitting all those into position, getting those strakes on the front and everything else just like that. Okay, so we knew this was going to be a little bit of a fit problem, and the first one we come across is when we've just done a basic lineup check, is these leading edge ones down in here, because obviously they don't go because it's too long. Obviously there is a difference between the trumpeter kit that we've been, you know, this is designed for, and the actual Revell one that we've got here. So as you can see, there is an overlap. Now, traditionally you might want to get in there with scissors and cut it and everything else. Trust me, your normal saw will do the trick. So what you want to do, let me just clear a little bit of space, pop it down, okay, blade, and then you can put it up against the butt out of the plastic, okay, and then all we're going to do is, I'll tell you what, we'll do it around the other way just so we can hold it. So we're just going to hold the edge and on this one as well. And what we're going to do is just lightly start to cut through, and this blade will in fact cut through photo etch very, very nicely, as long as you take your time with it. You don't want to be pushing, because otherwise you're just going to bend it out of the way. Again, with a lot of tools, let the tool do all the work, and you can just cut very clean, very easily, straight through the photo etch. As you can see, it's actually going through quite nicely. Okay, just take a little bit more. There we go, that's one side done, and we just got the back bit to go. There we go. A little bit of a wobble, and there it is, it's off. Okay, so that's it now. So in theory, you can then just take a look. And don't forget, you can sand it as well, just to see. So we're just going to top that underneath there, and we're just making sure the photo etch is clear everywhere, that it's not going to foul up and knock up against something or anything else like that. Okay, so once we got that in, and again we've got a little bit of a fit issue at the front, we're going to have to play with that just a little bit, or we're going to have to slide the entire section back. We're looking at it and I'm thinking what it is this part here just needs to be sanded back a little bit. So we've got quite a coarse side on the blue one. You can see it's only cutting this side at the moment. We're just gonna walk this rear one back. Okay, just a little bit, and then we can fit that in. There's a lot of stuff going on in here, so we're just trying to. There we go. That goes in. And that's going to butt up in. Actually, that doesn't look too bad a join at all once that is actually in. Okay, and the wing itself, I think by the time this is just pushed around a little bit, it seems to have a little bit of a height issue. So I'm thinking that we might have to take a little bit out of here. But this, to be honest, is just part of doing something like this, okay? I wasn't too sure that was perfect in the first place. It's not a form and point, so what we're going to do is just going to take a little bit of height just down off of this. Okay. We're just going to play, just trying to get it all to click in and line up. There's a little bit of a handful. Okay. That's actually alright. Okay, we're going to have to play just a little back here to get that in, but that actually isn't looking too bad. I think once this is in, again, that's not a bad join just down in there. I think once we get the glue in there and everything else, perhaps a little bit of filler, and we should be good to go. But there we go, we're starting to take shape. It's getting that classic ME262 look. So what we're going to do, get that wing setted in there, just get it glued in for the moment. We're not going to touch glue, we're not going to touch filler or anything else like that. Just let the glue go hard, and then what we'll do is we can start to work on the engines. And when the engines are drying off, we can come back and take care of that scene. Okay, so we've gone down and we've primed up, you can probably see under here, the entire surfaces. This is really just to make sure that the photo etch is down and it's clean. Okay, by actually coming in then and having a good look, you can see if you've got any sort of super glue up on this top area of the wing or any sort of bubbling through, and you can take care of it. Okay, so from that point of view, it's just a nice little quick fix with it. And as you can see, we've been around under here and we've painted in the actual RLM02, that sort of internal colour. We haven't done any weathering or anything to it. We're going to do a lot of it post, and that little bit of framework down there we're going to pick out by hand in a moment just before we put it in. Okay, now we have done lots of test fitting. Obviously we did chop off that little bit of photo etch, which has enabled this to go together, but what I have done is continuously taken height out of this guy here. It never seemed to sit right. I don't know if you remember that far back, but when we were doing it, it just didn't feel right. There was just something a little bit wrong with it and we weren't sure why. So we've sanded a lot of this down and we keep doing a little bit of test fitting just to see how it's going. So we're tacking that rear tab in first. Okay. getting that in like that, and then we're poking it all in there, and now finally we're just getting to that thing of, right, okay, everything seems to be sort of lining up and everything. The thing you do have to remember is this area at the front, you are going to get the little gap, but the rear behind it, you want to be level with this top wing. Okay, so a lot of it is that you might notice you do get these little tabs that they're here and here. Okay, and then at the front we've got two more there. All right, now what they're actually doing is they're making sure they fit into these key holes down in here, and you got one here and then one a little bit further back. Okay, so if they're not going in right, it doesn't sit right. So there's quite a lot going down in here that you just want to make sure is good. And also you got this guy in here is where this one fits in. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a little bit of height out of this one as well. Okay, so we're just going in. Now it's not structural, it's not going to harm anything, but I'm still convinced that these are fouling just a little bit of what's going on down below. Okay, and obviously if it's fouling, it's going to be causing a little bit of a problem. So again, this is one of those areas where if you're a little bit impatient and you rush in here a little bit too quick and everything, all of a sudden you're sort of like, you know, you're thinking, oh, that'll do, it's close enough and I'll get in there with a filler. But then by the time you get going with a filler and everything else, it can take a little bit of time. And hopefully you can see there now with a little bit of a nudge, this wing is perfect on that size. Okay, so that's no problem there, that's happy. So now we're just going to flip it over and we're going to check this side. Okay, and again, that's not far out. There's just something still messing around in there, and I'm not exactly 100% sure what it is. Okay, also this guy here seems to be sitting a little bit proud. Okay, and I'm not 100% sure. You're not going to see it, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to sand down this top area, just taking that area off there just a little bit, just trying to work out exactly what is going on in here. Okay, so again, we will just come in and we're going to test fit. And again, this is one of those things where it doesn't matter if it takes you a couple of hours almost to get right, because a nicer fit here will just make everything nicer later. And actually that's just pushed up. That's going to be no problem on that edge as well now. And actually you can see this isn't too bad even in here. It's not quite a nice fit. No real problems with any of these. And we haven't got huge amounts of filler and everything else going in there. Okay, so let's just push this side up. And again, it is that thing of just making sure everything's in there. And once it's in there, it's actually not too bad at all. So I think we're pretty much there. So what I'm going to do just before we come along, I'm going to be using obviously a couple of colours you've probably seen down in here. We've got the dull aluminium and also magnesium. Magnesium I like, it's a very strong, vibrant colour. And if you look in here, I've picked out some of the details. We've done a couple of straps in it, but it's more on the side of black than it is on the side of silver. So if you're going for an aluminium type look, then maybe you want to switch it out. So down in here, we've got this aluminium. So with these ones, what I do is shake them, use the top for hand painting. A lot of people say you can't hand paint these. You certainly can, but don't forget, it's almost the flood technique. Okay, so when you're coming in with these, what you want to do is almost just rub it on. Okay, now we know we're not going to see up here at all for a minute, but humour me on this. So we're just doing the control bars, not the actual areas themselves. And again, it's more for an effect than anything else, but we can just get in here. This is certainly easier to paint than it is to come around afterwards. So we're just doing underneath that bar and under there. But this particular paint, don't think you're going to be hand painting and brushing it on. This is definitely that sort of flood area where you just brush it over and let it sort of self-level on its own. If you don't let it self-level, it can look very tatty. But again, it's getting used to the product, knowing how it works. And then once you get used to it, it's certainly a good product to use. Okay, so there we go, that's those taken like that. Doesn't need any more than that, no problem down in there. All right, so that's those taken in. So what we do, let's pop the top on. Okay, keep that safe. Now obviously the other thing as well, we've got a lot of dust in here, so if you have, grab your airbrush and we just blow this out. The reason for doing this is that sometimes you get dust in here And then what can happen is, this is what gets in your canopy and on the inside, which is really annoying. So when you finish doing all your sanding work and you're happy that that's it, just get in here and blow the entire thing out. And to be honest, we will do a bit of a clean up on the cutting mat and everything else. But also, if that stuff gets out when you're painting, okay, it can then certainly affect the finish of your paint, and you get gritty paint and everything else. And it could have been that far back that, remember you did that sanding job weeks ago? That's what it is. Okay, so this is going to tuck underneath, just down the back. Okay, and then what we're going to do is, I think we're going to try and get one side in, get it perfect, and then we'll come to the other side once it's dried and in. As long as this front end is in correctly, like there, and that nice click sound was really very satisfying. Okay, so again, extra thin, touch. I'm going to let the capillary action zip around. So what we're going to do is I'm going to glue in this front end. And again, before somebody says, why are you using that glue fill? It's just the first thing I've grabbed. There's no personal preference here. Okay, so that's that one in there. But as you can see, that actually is a really, really nice fit. That's gone in there beautifully. Now again, we're going over metallic-y things in here, but I won't worry about it because when we come back, no doubt things will be slightly different. Okay, that leading edge. Again, we've got big slats that are going to fit in here, but we are going to have to come in here and polish a lot of this up. Okay, so that's just down in there. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to grab a clamp, because I'm actually got pressure where my thumb is underneath. So we need to sort of recreate that a little bit. So I'm just going to push that in. Okay, that's holding nice. Okay, just trying to see around the entire thing. And again, I think it's going to be a case of trying to lift this rear part of this wing up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in with a clamp, and I think we're going to try and go across the cockpit area like this. Actually, that worked quite well. A bit more pressure perhaps. And I'm feeling across there and there is no joint. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to slightly temp fate. I'm going to do a little bit more. Just switch to the other glue, probably because I've got a bit more in it. Okay, and we're just going to touch. And we're just going to flow it down this join because it is really very, very nice. Okay. Just a little bit of a nudge just at that back. Quite nice, and this even down in here is all very nice. What I'm going to do is we're only going to do one side, as I said, at a time. I'm just trying to get this just in here on this flat join. Okay, so what we're going to do is, for the moment, I'm just going to leave that just to do its bit. What I do want to do though, if we can, is I want to slightly push up just down in here. And again, this is just to we can. Actually, if I can get that to stay in there, this is what it's all about. I think that's actually pretty good. Just going to try and bring this out a little bit, and maybe if we use an old sponge, I might just be unable to enough to get a bit of a grip down in both. Okay, what we're trying to do is just lift this rear quarter up around that wing. just this rear part here. There is perfect, but I can't be holding it for that long. So what we're going to do is we're going to try, because there's not even an area I can get in there with actual physical super glue to try and bring that up together. So what it needs is an angle coming across like this, and not so much one like this, because it's lifting the wrong area. So what I'm going to try and do is just trying to pinch and lift, but it's literally just this back corner. Just wondering if we add a little bit more glue, because it's starting to set as well, which is fighting me against me now because it's starting to dry. We want to just ease this guy up just a little bit. There we go, that's got it. Ingenuity at its best, that's pretty good. It's not perfect, but it's a lot better than it was. As long as the front hasn't moved and the back hasn't moved, which it doesn't look like it has, okay, we should be absolutely fine in there still with the other side. But again, I'm going to let one side dry, let that go off, and then that way I can manipulate the other side to drop it in, because you might be able to see we've got quite a nasty gap going on down here at the moment, but I'm pretty sure that's all going to pull in once that side's in, because to be honest, this is the problem side, so I'm hoping it hasn't made too much difference between the two. Once that's in, we should be good to go. Okay, so as that's drying, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut out all the bits for the engine, and as we're working on those two, we can get the engine built, put together, and then hopefully today we can get that painted, and we can start the detailing process and even hopefully get it fitted onto the wing.